All right, everybody, welcome to Hard Rock History, episode 30. I am your host, Paula Christine, with my co-host, Tommy Coyne. And today we have a musician. Tommy, I keep saying this. Musician's musician. This guy is like one of these, he's like underground, but yet not underground, because if you can appreciate guitar players, and if you know the band Virgin Steel, Jack was part of the beginning of Virgin Steel, and then went on to do his own thing and create, as you can see in the background, Jack Starr's Burning Star. And he had some pretty great vocalists, and I want to talk about the vocalists that he was able to pick and understand and choose and say, hey, this is a pretty good vocalist that went on to future things.
hmm
That was incredible. So we're talking about Jack Starr. Jack, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me on and letting me tell my story.
Thank you so much. We said here, so we got a new single out that's on streaming only at the moment, right, Jack?
Yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
Rise Up. It's out
rise
on
up.
iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff, right? And it's Out of the Darkness Part Two. Is it gonna be? Is it?
Yes, that's the name of the album. It's basically the sequel to the first solo album that I did with Rhett Forrester.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, Rhett is no longer with us. But I did find a very good singer for part two, Giles Lavery.
Oh, Giles
And,
is singing. Oh, great.
yeah,
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 Giles
yeah.
is on it.
Good friends with Giles. He's fantastic.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing Alcatraz right now and Warlord.
Warlord, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
And yeah, a couple of other things, he's busy.
Yeah, he's got his fingers in. He's helping manage girls' school. He's out on the road doing
Yes.
tour management.
Right.
He's got his fingers in a lot of pies, as they say.
Yes.
You know. So, Jack, we like to start in the beginning with you. What was your influences to actually start to play guitar?
Well, when I first started, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles were coming out and they were becoming really big. I was young. I mean, I was like 11 years old when I first heard the Beatles. And then I heard the Rolling Stones, and I actually preferred the Rolling Stones. It's a
Mm.
little bit of a harder edge, and it was more bluesy. So I begged and I pleaded my mom. I said, I want a guitar. I need a guitar. And lo and behold, they came through. My parents got me a guitar. And but I real I didn't realize at the time that it was a lot of work to really master guitar. So I put the guitar under my bed and I never touched it or looked at it for 3 years. Then one day, I think I was in like ninth grade or 10th grade, and I'm talking to this kid. His name was Richie Micheal, and he said, "Oh, I play guitar, and I heard you have a guitar." I said, "Yeah, I do. I never looked at it." He said, "Well, what kind is it?" I didn't even know what it was. I just said, it looks good.
Hmm.
It's under my bed. It's in the case,
Collecting dust.
collecting dust. Never open it. I tried one time like 3 years ago to play it, and it was just too hard. It hurt my fingers. And anyway, so this kid goes, "It's really not that hard. What bands do you like?" I said, "No, I like the Rolling Stones. So he goes, "We'll get together and let's take the guitar out from under your bed." So he came over and we were, playing, and he showed me this song on the first Rolling Stone album. It was a song called Confessing the Blues.
Mhm.
And like an album track, not one of the popular songs or anything. But I think he showed me that because it was the easiest, so that I wouldn't be like freaked out by
Hmm.
how difficult it was. Anyway, to make a long story short, uh, I was able to play it, and learn, the bar chords and all this stuff. And then I heard like B.B. King and Santana, and I really wanted to be able to do that. And that was the whole thing, was vibrato.
Hmm.
Clapton also, it was like ding, you know, and
Sustaining the note.
yes,
Yeah.
hanging on that note and making it sing. And it's kind of funny because 50 years later, if you were to ask me what's the most important attribute a guitar player can have, and I would really have to say vibrato. You either have a good vibrato or you don't. You're either Neil Young with a horrible vibrato,
Hmm.
or you're Gary Moore with a good vibrato.
And I was just gonna bring up Gary. Like I always say, Parisian Walkways instrumental live. Him holding that note, it seems like forever,
Right.
but so clean and crisp and powerful. And you
Yes.
just shake your head, going, "Oh my God, how is he keeping that note going like that?" It's great.
Right. Same thing with like Leslie West,
Hmm.
it's like do 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 do, and it's got that boop, boop, boop. It's like he's really singing with that.
Hmm.
And so that's what I do when I play. I'm very focused on the importance of vibrato. The other stuff also, but
So did you automatically want to create a band? And did you stay in your room for hours type of thing after that and practice?
yes,
And were
I
you an
did.
ear guy? Did you practice
To-
by ear?
Totally, totally learned by ear, and I did stay in my room a lot. I mean, this went on all the way to my senior year. My friends would come over and, hey, Jack, let's go out, man. We're gonna go pick up some chicks. We got the beer and everything. And I go, no, that's okay. I'm practicing tonight. You know, I was like, I was like kind of like a fanatic, you know.
Mm.
And if I heard somebody do something that I couldn't do, I wanted to do it.
And did you buy the albums and go back and forth to try to learn the parts too?
Yes, I did. You know, little things like I would hear like Hendrix on Voodoo Child trilling, and I loved the way that sounded. Then I would go to the Fillmore East every once in a while, and I heard like a totally unknown band. I can't remember their name now. I think it might have been called Hammer. Maybe they were opening up for another fairly unknown band. But then the guy would be like hammering, brr, but then he would be moving up and down hammering. So then that became my next challenge. Oh, I want to do what that guy did. He was doing the Hendrix thing, but then he was moving it. Or I would hear somebody, tapping out octaves, like it's hard to explain, but if you go 12 frets down on the guitar, you find the octave of whatever note you're playing. So I was always like challenging myself, never thinking that I was any good. And I think it's good in a way because you know, you hopefully get better.
And what ventured out into the land of bands for you then?
Um, I think it was meeting girls. I think, it's like I wanted to like meet, girls. I know it sounds so lame to say that, but yeah, I think that was it. I mean, I remember like the first time I would tell some girls, "Oh yeah, I play in a band." And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, that's just as good as saying, I'm captain of the football
Yeah, it's a
team.
good pickup line.
It's a good pickup line. Yeah, it really was. And since, I wasn't like really tall or big, I was only like 5'6", and I wasn't like, I figured, wow, this kind of bridges the gap, or it kind of compensates in a way. It's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not the best looking guy in school, maybe I'm not the biggest, the strongest, but wait a
But,
minute,
but you got good vibrato.
but I got that's it, brother. That's it.
Were there other guys as good as you or better than you that you can play off of,
There
or?
were there were a couple of guys in my high school that were actually good, and they made me want to get better than them.
Mhm.
Like there was a guy named Peter Goldstein, he was very good. There was another guy named Richie Veltri, he was good.
Ain't that
His
something
brother
you
was
remember?
good.
You remember these names
I
still, you
remember
know?
their names, yeah, because I wanted to get better than them. I basically wanted to blow them away.
Hmm.
And I did. You know, I'm sure none of them have even recorded one album or ever toured or ever played in Europe or any of the stuff that or been endorsed by a guitar company, getting free guitars, which I've gotten my whole life, you know. Uh, but back then, you know, they were like big shots, you know, oh, I can play like I don't know, Jerry Garcia. And it was like I didn't even think Jerry Garcia was that great, you know. But you know, but he had a couple of things that he did
Oh yeah.
that were good, you know, like the minor stuff, you know, the free form jazz stuff. So, and these guys were tuned into that probably because they smoked a lot of pot.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So, and then I figured, you know, I want to learn that stuff too. And I did, you know, and so on and so forth. And then there was a black guy in my high school named Smitty, who, by the way, I'm still friends with
Hmm.
on uh, on Facebook. I haven't seen him in person in a long time, but you know, he knew how to play all that stuff that the Blues Brothers made famous. You
Mm.
know, Soul Man and all that. And I remember him showing me how to play that one day. And the reason I remember it is because we were at the bus stop, you know, on our way to school. And I mentioned that he goes, oh, that's really easy to, I'll show it to you, man. It's really like something. And one thing led to another. Then I got a band going. Uh, and there was a place near my house that had every band you could think of, from Black Sabbath to you name it. They would come into this club. The club was called the Action House.
Where was the location, Jack?
It was Island Park, New York,
Okay.
and I lived in Long Beach, so it really was not that far. Anyway, the people that owned Action House, you know, they were kind of how can I say it? They were kind of in the mob. You know, they were definitely, you know, people that
Connected,
they were definitely connected. Yeah.
as we
And
say.
uh and I was a little harmless kid. I'm like I was 16, 17 years old at the time. So they let me come in, hang out to watch the rehearsals. Sometimes Carmine would be rehearsing there with Cactus, or sometimes Mark Stein with the Fudge or whatever, you know. And then they let me in to see shows also, you know, like the Birds were playing at Blue Oyster Cult. In fact, my first band, I think we had only been a band like 6 months. We opened up for Blue Oyster Cult when they played there. And so I really got the taste of it, you know, of playing. And and it was just like how can I describe it? It's like a drug,
Mm.
you know, but it's a drug. I was going to say that has no harmful, uh, you know,
Side effects.
side effects. Yeah, but but then I thought about it. Yeah, actually, it does.
Well, it potentially does. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, it
Well,
definitely potentially.
it's definitely ego driven also.
It's ego driven. It's bad. It's wanting, you know, the American dream on steroids. You know, you want money, you want chicks. You're kind of like the guy in Scarface.
Hmm.
You
You're
want it
not,
all.
well, yeah, you want it all, but you're not going to kill anybody. You're just going to play guitar.
Jack, was George Cintron part of your circle in Long Island?
No, not really. Though I do have respect for George because George is a very good guitar player and very, no, he's very driven, you know, and but when George came out with an EP, He was
Yep.
doing original music,
Hmm.
and I thought it was good, and I thought he should have stuck with it.
Me too. I thought that EP was great, and I was to this day so disappointed he never followed on that path.
Right. So he should have. But life can be tough sometimes. If you don't get that thing right away that you're looking for, a lot of people are going to kind of fall by the wayside and just kind of realize that it's not worth the hassle or whatever.
Yeah.
But we did some shows with Centron, and yeah. But he wasn't really part of my circle. I guess the reason why it was is that he, by the time that I started really making a name for myself, he was really into doing covers.
Okay.
And so I always didn't really wasn't ever part of the covers scene for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm not really good at figuring out other people's songs. And at least back then I wasn't. Uh, Number two, I don't think it's that creative, you know. But I mean, I would have loved to have been able to play all those covers. Um, but it wasn't in the cards for me. But I do remember one time, we were opening up for Blue Oyster Cult at the Action House, which later changed names to the Rock Pile. And I'm backstage with Buck Dharma, Don, as I called him, and they were still doing covers,
Hmm.
yeah, which kind of fascinated me because their album on Columbia was coming out a couple of months from that show that we were doing. And I told Don, I said, man, I really love the way you guys did a whole lot of love. That was great. Because and then I don't know why, I just said, can you show me how you did that lead thing and where it goes bam, 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 bam. So he goes, yeah. So it's like, the mind is kind of weird how we remember certain things and we don't remember a lot of other things.
Right.
But I did remember sitting backstage and Don was showing me how to play a whole lot of love, which, by the way, I could still play, and I played the way he showed it to me.
Mm.
Uh, so I mean, so if someone back then were to have shown me a lot of covers, that could have changed the whole trajectory of my life. But luckily for me, no one did.
Mm.
Right.
So I had to make up my own stuff, and that's what I did.
And with Virgin Steel, you went towards the metal genre. Is that the way you wanted to go, or did you want to stay within a hard rock? Did you try to want to be the Page or the Blackmore, of your time in that sense?
No, I really did want to get totally into metal, and metal blending a little bit of classical, and that's what we did with Virgin Steel, because I had this European influence in my playing, and so I wanted to bring that out in the songwriting, and I was able to find like-minded people, uh, and really the really important thing, and a lot of people that you interview probably won't tell you this, the name is super important.
Absolutely.
If you come up with a great name,
Hmm. I agree.
Iron Maiden, great name. Iron Butterfly, great name. Uh, Black Sabbath, great name.
Motorhead.
Motorhead,
Yeah.
Virgin
Blue Oyster
Steel,
Cult.
Voice of Cult, great name.
That soft white underbelly.
Right, yeah. Can you think about what progress they made from that horrible name to Voice of Cult? But so names are really important. The Virgin Steel name that I created was really just it was a great name. It had power and it replicated all the things that I loved in names like Lead, Zeppelin. You
Mm.
got the heavy Lead, and then you got the Zeppelin, which is light. Iron Maiden,
Right.
Virgin, but we did it the opposite. In Virgin, we put the light first. Well,
Right.
actually, in Virgin, yeah, Virgin Steel, yeah, the
It's
light and then the
Steele's
steel,
heavy, the heavier part. Yeah.
yeah. So I came up with this name, and anyway, I was living in Huntington, Long Island, and I met this guy. He was 18 years old. He was a drummer, and I kind of like mentored him in a way. I was just telling him, Joey, there's other music out there besides the stuff that they spoon feed us on WBAB, which was like the big
Mhm.
radio station out
Hmm.
there.
Babylon Radio.
Yeah. I said, there's other stuff, man. Read some of these magazines from England, like Kerrang and Sounds, and you'll see that none of these people ever get played in America, but they're great. Let's get together. I'm gonna play you some stuff, and you'll understand what it is that I want to do with Virgin Steel. So and Saxon was coming out and so on and so forth. So he got it. It's like a foreign movie that's very, very abstract. Not everyone gets it right away.
Hmm.
He got it. He understood what it was that I wanted to do. And then we did it. We created the band. We auditioned people. We found a singer. The prerequisite singer. We needed somebody with a lot of range because we wanted that screaming. That screaming in key,
Mm.
which in Deep Purple. If you listen to Child in Time,
Hmm.
in the beginning, he's going, wah, it's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Who the hell was doing that? Nobody. Not even Eric Adams. And Eric Adams probably got it from listening
I'm
to
sure.
Deep Purple.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, I found the guy that could do that. And then it was off to the races. It was like, okay, we can do this thing. And the reviews were really positive, from England, from everywhere. The album really made a worldwide impact. In Japan, I was just looking at a magazine the other day, right? And it was a magazine called Music Life from Japan,
Oh
from
yeah.
I think it was like 1982. Turn to one of the advertisements, and here's Virgin Steel. We have 3/4 of the page. The remaining quarter is Metallica. So it's like, what the hell did we do wrong?
Mm.
Where did we go from actually coming coming out of the gate with an incredible bang, like you would not believe? The next big thing. And then egos got in the way.
With the first album, Varney picked up one of the songs, right? And he put it on his
Mhm.
compilation. And that must have been a good push for you guys too.
It really was, because lots of people put out albums that are totally unknown, but you need something to hang your hat on. You need to tell the world, hey, I don't suck because I'm on this album with the 10 greatest unknown guitar players in America.
Right.
It's according to what Mike was looking for. And probably dozens or hundreds of people tried to get on that album, but I got on the album so with my band Virgin Steel. So if you're a little record store in Boise, Idaho, or in you know, I don't know, Washington, but the Washington next to Oregon, that Washington, uh, and then we call you on the phone and we say, hey, we're Virgin Steel. Uh, we're a new metal band from Long Island, New York, and we're good. It's like, okay, great, you're good. Thank you. Now we call back a month later, and I wouldn't be doing the calling because I wasn't really, I'm not really like a great salesperson. But anyway, so they call back a month later. Hey, calling about Virgin Steel. You know, that's the band where the guitar player, uh, Jack Starr, got on that Guitar Player magazine shrapnel thing. You know, the best unsung guitar players. So you should check it out. It's got really great playing on it. Okay, I'll take 5. Then they go on to the next store. Okay, yeah, I'll take 20. And so on. And before you know it, we we're selling albums and we're creating interest from other labels that want to get in on it and make money because they see that we're making money doing it.
Why did you not want
You're
to?
becoming like a cult band in essence.
Why?
You're becoming like a cult,
Yes.
a cult following in essence. You're
Yes.
building up from the ground up.
We really were the quintessential cult band. I mean, all the tape traders back then, that was a big thing. They were trading cassettes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you get into these little fanzines that maybe had a circulation of 200 or 300,
Yep.
It was, but it was, the dedicated ones,
Right.
you know. So it's like sometimes, the quality of a fan is even more important than how many fans.
I
Like if
agree because
Yeah, the
they'll always
dedication.
stay with you no matter what.
they're with me now, So it's unbelievable. Uh, so yes, so we were definitely a really big cult band, which led us to getting signed with Music for Nations, which was a big record company in England.
Mm-hmm.
They had Metallica and uh,
Manowar was on there also.
yeah, King Diamond was on. I mean, the album that I was on, the Hell on Earth, was like a who's who of metal. And this was our first major outing as a band. So we're right next to, Metallica and King Diamond and I'd have to look at the album, but everybody on that Striper was on there. I mean,
Uh,
it was crazy.
Jack, why didn't you guys try to shop it to the major labels and go independently? Didn't you think that might have hurt you also?
It did. I think it did in a way, yes. But I mean we were distributed by major labels also.
But in the U.S. itself, I mean, the distribution here, and then you would have got the backing for touring.
Yeah,
You would have had someone behind,
we needed that.
helping you out in that sense, and especially being in the beginning.
We needed that, and we did not get that. We actually had a meeting with RCA Records, and Dave and I went up to the office. I believe the vice president or the president back then was a woman named Wendy, not Wendy Dio, but I think she was also Wendy. And anyway, I have to honestly say it wasn't a good meeting. I think part of the problem is we knew too much. We knew too much about the business, about how it works and how you make money at it with the publishing and the licensing and the administration deals and the sub-publishing. Um, so I don't know if labels really want bands that they can't exploit as
They want
readily.
cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one theory I have.
yeah.
The other theory I have, I mean, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna tell you the honest truth about that particular meeting. Uh, she came out and said, look, we're either gonna sign you guys or we're gonna sign Grim Reaper. So I was kind of vaguely familiar with Grim Reaper. Uh, you know, see you in hell, my friend,
Hmm.
that song.
I was a massive fan.
Steve Grimmett.
Loved them.
Yeah, right. There So anyway, Dave, at the time, he was younger than me, and I don't think he had learned the art of diplomacy, which is an art that you learn as you get older. You don't always necessarily say what's on your mind.
Mm.
But if someone is going to invest a lot of money into Grim Reaper or any other band, you need to really watch how you say what you're going to say. Because bottom line is, I always believe that you can build yourself up without putting anyone else down. So I'll leave it at that. You know,
So you kind of put a sour taste in her mouth in that sense, you feel.
yeah, yeah, I believe so. I didn't, but
Did you walk out feeling that you kind of blew it then in that sense with in the
yes,
meeting?
I did because I think Dave was being too truthful about his opinions because the thing is like, you know, Dave kind of gravitated more towards music that was a little more progressive, you know, and so maybe he missed the point of Grim Reaper.
Oh, so he kind of ripped them to in this.
If I remember correctly,
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah. Now, as far as the thing with me is I'm more open-minded. Like for instance, I like I thought Motorhead was great.
Me too.
But yeah, but a lot of guys that played in bands like that were on the cusp of being
Hmm.
progressive, which we were right on the cusp.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of people that didn't like them at that time.
Right. They thought, oh, this is simplistic,
Yeah.
whatever. It's stupid, it's primitive.
Hmm.
I totally disagreed with them. I said, no, Ace of Spades is a rock and roll anthem. It's brilliant.
And those guys were good players. Oh,
And on top of
yeah,
that, they're very good
The
players. Yeah.
yeah.
song "Overkill" alone, it's unbelievable.
Right. All that stuff. So, but I don't want to dwell too much on that, but just to suffice to say that we made a lot of bad decisions,
Mm.
a lot. And another bad decision was the whole thing with when we saw Metallica. They were doing this tour on it was kind of like I don't know, it looked like a Volkswagen camper with a U-Haul in the back. Really, really low budget. And again, Dave didn't really understand the beauty and the magic and the balls of what Metallica was doing. Because what they were doing was they were taking the whole thing into their own hands. They weren't waiting for a label to put them on tour or anything, or a merchandise company to print up beautiful four-color t-shirts or whatever. So went to see them, and we're talking to Johnny Z, and my thought was, we really need to hook up with Johnny Z. I think, I think there's a possibility that if we contacted him, he would see, the excitement of what we're doing, the the uh, the hardcoreness of it, the fact that it was in your face. Because we had a progressive edge, but we were still really very, very loud and powerful. Anyway, I got the feeling that Dave's attitude back then was basically like a spoiled child. It was like, oh, fuck that, Jack. What, you want to be like Metallica riding around in a fucking camper, not taking showers. Uh, and I thought about it and I said, they're doing something really good. I said, look at the back of that homemade t-shirt. Look at the back of the shirt. There's 45 different American cities on the back of
Mm.
that shirt. They're more unknown than we are, but they're going out there
And
and
spreading the word.
they're hitting the road and they're making fans at every stop. We could be doing that. But no, you stay in your little town being, you know, the big guy in the little town,
Hmm.
you know, with your little groupies and your little followers. You're not seeing the big picture. And
And what was touring like that for you
well,
guys, Jack? What was touring like that? Were you just local guys? Did you branch out to other places on the first album?
we just played in the tri-state area. We didn't really do what Metallica did. We did, you know, we did some good shows. I mean, we played like the Paramount Theater, Staten Island,
Hmm.
with Man of War. Then we did the Calderone, which is another big theater that I had seen Rainbow the year before. We did that show with Motorhead. Uh, and you know, we were doing decent shows, but in our little neck of the woods, which became bigger and bigger as time went by. But it needed, you know, it's kind of like people wondered about there was a band called Love in the 1960s. They put out a couple of albums. They never toured outside of California. Big mistake. They could have been huge. And same thing with the Seeds, another band from the 60s. One of the the metal bands before metal had a name. There was a band called the Seeds, and they had a song called Pushing Too Hard. And these guys were great, but
Oh, that was a good song, actually.
oh, you remember that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, in fact, it's funny. We a Music Machine, another band. They also really didn't play outside of California. They had a song called Talk Talk. I don't know if you remember them,
That I don't know. No.
but pushing too hard. Yeah. So you have to sometimes really take the bull by the horn and get the hell out there and play, especially if you love doing it.
Oh, that was going to be a profession also. I mean, not for nothing.
Yeah.
You
If you
didn't think
love,
about getting a booking agent or anything like that?
we
To get you
really,
out to Chicago and Boston and so forth,
well,
to
well, with Burning Star, we did. We had, and we went and played. We went to Texas. We went to Chicago. We played. But here's the thing: you only get one chance to make a huge impact.
Mhm.
To you know, it's like a boxer. Everyone's talking about a certain boxer. He comes out. He's had like, you know, 40 KOs in a row. You know, knockouts, and but if he doesn't grab that moment in time,
Vanishes.
it vanishes. You know, and then, you know, you can do what I've done, you know, I put out albums and I have a loyal cult following, uh, which is great. But I mean, if you were to interview Dave, he wouldn't be as honest and forthcoming as I am because I'm telling you right now that Virgin Steel was bigger in 1981, 82, and 83 than they ever have been afterwards. I mean, we were in Kerrang regularly. We were uh, we were on all the charts, all the import charts, sounds, Kerrang, everything. Uh, and we had this incredible influence. I mean, I run into people that are in bands that are much bigger than Virgin Steel ever became, or bands like take Hammerfall.
Hmm.
My about I think about 15 years ago, my son wrote them a fan letter. Talk about a strange thing, you know. He just he really liked the band. He just wrote them a fan letter. One of the guys writes back, is your father Jack Starr? Because we are big fans. And my son goes, look at this. And I go, yeah, well, that's cool, you know.
Mm.
But that's the kind of thing that impact. Uh, I'll look on the first Rhapsody album, and I see in the list of bands that they want to thank, Virgin Steel is one of them. Uh, Rhapsody and Hammerfall became way bigger than Virgin Steel.
Mm.
Uh, so the band made the splash, got big, and then for whatever reason, uh, we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball, and I picked up the ball with Burning Star.
When you did the second album, you said, "All right, let's try to do this again." Obviously, and then it was just the same old story, I guess, right?
The Guardians of the Flame.
Yeah.
Um, well, Guardians of the Flame wasn't really the same old story because Guardians of the Flame was on a much bigger budget in a
Hmm.
much better studio with real producers. So, and we went from this incredibly primitive album recorded in a 4-track studio on a TAC, Tascam, stuff that people today, they wouldn't even record a commercial for dog food on it or whatever.
Mm.
But so the second album was really a great album and it holds up. And then that really opened up all the doors. But that's when I made a mistake. The mistake that I made is I was watching MTV and I saw this band Saga on MTV.
Canadian band.
Canadian, they had a hit song, Tonight I'm on the Loose.
Yeah, awesome,
Great song.
tremendous.
Uh, they blended the stuff that Virgin Steel was blending, classical music, cool guitar playing, good singing, the whole 9 yards. And I realized we needed a manager. So just on a crazy whim, I said, you know what? I'm gonna contact Saga. There's an address on the back of the album. And back then there was this thing called snail mail.
Hmm.
You had envelopes and you had a pen. And so I'm gonna contact this guy, and he had a weird name. The man Zoran Buzik. And I later found out it's like a Croatian name because they had some problems over there with Serbia, Croatia, and I don't know. It was like a lot of people escaped. Anyway, he moved to Canada, I guess, and started a record company and found this band Saga. So I said, I was kind of like naive, like, dear sir, that kind of thing. I hope you don't mind me, writing to you, but I have a band called Virgin Steel. We're pretty much totally unknown at this point. I just, I'm going to be on this thing called US Metal. Uh, but I would like if you could let us know what you think of it. And I sent him the demo. And never really expecting to hear from him. I had my phone number. He called up a week later and we're talking. He goes, you guys are on to something. You understand it. You get it. And it was like, cool. Because this guy could do something for us. He's managed to take a Canadian band, which isn't the easiest thing in the world. Because, everybody, I mean, Americans, we're a bit ethnocentric. We're going to obviously like a lot of what comes from America first. And Canada is kind of like, the ugly stepchild, except for, of course, for Rush and Triumph. But anyway,
And
so
April Wine.
he, and who?
April 1.
Yes, let's not forget them.
Saga sounded very European.
Jack.
Nice, nice. So yeah, Saga did sound very European. Exactly. And this guy Zoran, why he related to Virgin Steel is because we sounded very European. So to make a long story short, he just said, look, Jack, I want to manage you guys. I want to take you to the next level. You're almost there. You're in Kerrang as often as Saga. You're in all the import charts. You're getting endorsement deals up the yin yang. You're with ESP. You're with this one and that one. I can't believe you've done all this by yourself. He was amazed. And I can't believe I've done it all by myself either. But I have. So he goes, well, let me sign you to my management company, and I have a deal with A&M Records, so we'll get that album. We'll get Guardians of the Flame with better distribution in Canada. So I said, all right, it sounds really good. Send me the stuff. Let me look at it. I looked at it. Everything looked good. So Virgin Steel went with this guy. But little did I know that he wasn't who he said he was. He wasn't a nice guy. He didn't really want to make Virgin Steel become the next Iron Maiden, the next Saga. He wanted to get me out of the band. Why? Who the hell knows? Probably like everything else in life, money. Because I had been managing the affairs financially of Virgin Steel. And he felt that, this guy Jack is going to be a pain in the ass. He's going to want to see accounting. He's going to want to see spreadsheets. He's just going to be a pain. Why can't he just be the same age as the other guys? Why does he have to be 8 or 10 years older? And why does he need money? Why is he married? Why does he have kids? Why can't he just be a happy-go-lucky kid and I could just rip him off blindly? So what do you do when confronted with that harsh reality? You poison the well. You make the other guys in the band start to distrust and dislike the guy that you want to get out. And that, my friends, is how Zoran Music engineered and was able to make me leave my own band that I started, where I had actually registered the name, where I had written 80% of the songs. And within a year, I was out. And I thought, well, I'll do a solo album because I was the most visibly known member of that band. They were interviewing me, not Dave, not the drummer. So I said, it sucks, but I'm well known, so I can put together a band. And I did put together Burning Star, and I went to the biggest independent label in America, which at the time was Passport Records, which was affiliated with Arista. And they had like Wendy O. Williams. They had the guy that sang Year of the Cat.
Al Stewart.
Al Stewart.
Yeah.
They even, for God's sakes, they even had one of the Rolling Stones. They had Bill Wyman in a band called Willie and the Poor Boys.
Right.
So I figured, I'm ahead of the ball. I'm, the curve, Yeah, okay, so they got rid of me, but I'm on a bigger label than they are now. And I and I can call the shots totally because it's my solo album. Anyway, I needed a singer. My favorite singer at the time was two people, Rhett Forrester and Shmulik from a band called Picture.
That's one of Tommy's boys, Shmuley. We loved
Yeah.
them from the rods.
Yeah. And they got that idea from the Out of the Darkness Part One album. They got the idea of using Shmulik because Carl Kennedy was on my solo album. Actually, Gary Driscoll did play it on a song too from the first Rainbow album. So he was
Right.
on my album too, and Gary Bornero was on the album. Uh, but Rhett Forrester was really the find. I mean, for me, because it was too involved getting Shmulik at the time. He was still in Picture, and he was away. He was in Holland, but
He
uh,
was a big deal in Holland. He was in another band called Horizon.
yes, he was a big deal, absolutely.
That was really good.
And I was talking on the phone with Shmulik, which was no easy feat because back then you had a transatlantic call for like 20 minutes. You're talking like $100.
Hmm.
But I talked to him several times actually. We got along great, great singer, and I saw the potential in him. You know, you're you're as good as Dio.
I
How,
thought.
how much better does it get than that?
Hmm.
You're just a guy sitting around in a country that has no bearing on the world of metal,
Right.
Holland, with a weird name, but you're as good as Dio. Anyway, so we went with Rhett Forrester. The label was very happy because they were very helpful. So I had like somebody in my corner finally. I had the president of the label who saw in me something big, you know, he was like, you know, he was signing people like Leslie West on an album, Wendy O. Williams, you know, who lining up, I guess, Gene Simmons to produce her album
Mhm.
for Passport. So Passport was not like a small thing. When I went to visit them in New Jersey, it was like basically like walking into GE or General Motors. I mean, we're talking about 3 or 4 square blocks. This wasn't like today's record scene where you got a guy in his bedroom, you
Right.
know, pressing albums. Uh, you know, not that I'm not trying to belittle it. It's just the sad fact is
It's
it's
changed.
yeah. It was so so when I went you know, to see Passport, I was blown away. You know, and you know, I mean, this guy, you know, 2 days earlier was seeing Bill Wyman of the Stones, probably giving Bill a huge check,
I'm
you know,
sure.
and and I got a pretty huge check, which was kind of something different for me. It's like, wow, you mean people actually like pay for heavy metal? Well, what a concept, you know, because we weren't really, you know, making a lot of money with Virgin Steel, but we were getting the ego rush, you know, of being, you know, in all these magazines, being on all these charts and so on and so forth. Anyway, so I got together with Rhett. That's when I realized Rhett and we hit it off. You know, they say in life, opposites attract as people too, you know. Um, Rhett was kind of like a tough guy. You know, Rhett, I mean, like nobody was going to mess with Rhett.
He didn't take no shit.
No,
No.
not from anyone. Uh, he got into some trouble, including some trouble with the law and all that. But I kind of admired that. You know, it was kind of a weird, you know. I kind of admired the fact that he could drink anyone under the table, anyone. he could literally have two or three six packs in the course of a day while doing stuff,
Right.
not passed out
Functional.
on a couch,
Yeah, functional.
actually doing things, going out doing interviews, going to music conventions, going with me to label meetings, going to rehearsals. Uh, it was just amazing. Then, we'd like walk into like clubs and it was just like, I mean, the prettiest, hottest chick in the club or wherever we were, and she could be with a famous singer, a guy who's selling millions of records. They'd go for Rhett. It was just like he had this incredible magnetism, you know. So anyway, to make a long story short, uh, I said, listen, I want to do an album. I just got kicked out of my band. And he was the only one that I would have ever said that to, got kicked out. Because no one, I never would say that, oh, we had musical differences, but I told him, I said, look, I got kicked out of my band, but I went to the biggest independent label in America, Passport, and they just signed me to a big record deal. Signed me without even a singer. I told them I have two people in mind. I have you and Shmulik. And I would really rather have you. I've heard that you were not in Riot anymore. And he goes, well, that's kind of like, we haven't said anything, but yes, it looks that way. So I said, well, let's do this, let's let a little bit of time go by. I'll call Green Street Management. They manage Riot and see, because I don't want to have anything. I've been through legal BS with Virgin Steel and, getting fired by the new manager. I said, I don't want any problems with Green Street Management or with, the Riot's management people. So let me call them. I'll have a meeting with them. Anyway, they said, yes, Rhett is no longer with us. I go, really? Yeah. He goes, we don't really want to discuss why or how or anything like that. Are you interested in obtaining this, Rhett as your singer, obtaining his services? I go, yeah, hell yeah. They go, here's his number. I'm sorry, but we don't want to waste a lot of time talking to you. Here's his number. Call him. So right then and then, I knew whatever it was, there must have been something that went on or whatever. I mean, and it wasn't any of my business. If they're nice enough to give me his number, that was it. I called him up. We clicked over the phone. And I said, look, Rhett, I need you to come to my house. I have the whole house to myself for the next 3 months. I I want you to come over and jam with me and learn my songs because I have a record deal. I said, I'm not just some guy that's got a gig at L'Amour's coming up, which, would have been okay, but I go, this is a little bit bigger. This is like a real bona fide record deal. You're going to get paid. We're going to do some festivals in Europe. And you're the guy. You're the guy for this job. I want you. And he goes, let me think about it. So I go, okay, no problem. Then about a minute later, he goes, just what the fuck? Jack, I just thought about it. I'm in, brother. When do you want me out to Huntington? I said, well, can you come this weekend and pack a suitcase? So he did. And that was great. He basically like took over my house, camped out in the living room. had his own bedroom, but he liked the living room better because there was a bigger TV set in the living room. And then a week later, his girlfriend came out and she'd walk around the house half naked, and which it's like okay, yeah. He was a character. Then I would say, all right, I'm going to 7-Eleven. Can I get you anything? He goes, no, because I'll come with you. And Rhett, you see, like most rock and roll guys, we have two personas. The persona that when we're sitting around the house, we don't put on our leathers, we don't put on our, boots and stuff. Leather, when Rhett would get out of the house, he looked like a rock star. Even to go to 7-Eleven, it was unbelievable. So, everyone in town within 1 week knew that I was up to something. That Jack Starr was making an album with this fucking bona fide rock star. Wherever we went, if we went to a club, it was like, holy shit, man! You're Rhett Forster. You're in the band Riot. You had that song Swords and Tequila, which was actually the singer
Vice
before him,
Forenza.
but it didn't matter because no one knows anything in rock and roll. You're in Riot. That's all that matters. And now you're with Jack Starr, and you guys are going to do something great because they all read in the local magazines. Because I had a really great rapport with all the local magazines in Long Island, New York, and New Jersey. So whenever I did anything, I mean, even emptying my garbage can, it would get reported in Good Times, Island Ear, all those. And anyway, so they all knew that I was going to be doing something with Rhett. And one thing led to another. I mean, Rhett, everything about Rhett was unorthodox. I mean, I've never really been in any fights in my life. I mean, maybe one slight altercation in junior high school, but Rhett, I mean, like trouble followed him. Women followed him, literally followed him. Women would show up at our doorstep at 3 o'clock in the morning. They found our address. It's just insanity. When we got to the studio, there was people camped outside of the studio. Women, guys looking for autographs. It was just insane. We had this guy show up with what was the car in Back to the Future?
DeLorean.
The DeLorean. Guy shows up with the DeLorean and he goes, "Hey, you want to use my car? I really would like to get on the album cover. You guys can use it, ride around in it, whatever. I just want the car on the album cover." So go, okay, you got a deal. It was just that kind of like insanity. And then when we get into the studio, this is where the insanity gets even better. I go, Rhett, today we're going to do Wild in the Streets. We went over it. Do you remember it? And he goes, yeah, vaguely. He goes, let me just write the lyrics out before I go into the vocal booth. So he gets out a napkin, he writes out the lyrics, and he goes, I should be able to get this in 1 or 2 takes. Gets in the vocal booth, nails it in 1 take. Just had that incredible, the sound was there. It was like 2 engineers that were there, and they look at me and they goes, where did you find this guy? I go, he was the guy in Riot. Because this guy's got the magic pipes like David Coverdale. He's got that blues, you know. So it took us a while because then we went upstate New York, and that goes into the other part of the story where I met Carl Kennedy, and who was a great producer, and Carl ended up producing the album. And we finished the album, and the album sounded unbelievable. Just great sounding album. And and here I was, a year before, totally unknown. Now I've got like the guys from Rainbow, from the Rods, I'm on this big label, and the album is coming out. It gets like 4-star reviews and Kerrang, Metal Forces. In fact, Metal Forces puts me on the cover. So things were opening up in the world of Jack Starr. Things could have gone even better. Uh, what was needed really at that time, it was a band that was more committed, which I didn't have that.
No.
I mean, but that would have been a home run. Uh, and though I did have great people that played on the album, like Greg D'Angelo, who later joined White Lion.
Right line.
I had Bruno Ravel,
Danger, danger.
Danger, danger.
Danger. I had I even had one guy that was in the Good Rats for a while. In fact, Pepe, the singer of the Good Rats, produced a track for the album called "Rock the American Way," which was the title track. And so, yes, it would have been great. I think the problem is uh, in heavy metal, probably in anything, ego. It's like everybody wants to be the leader. There are no, everybody wants to be the chief, the Indian chief. So you're probably thinking, well, maybe I did too. Not really. I have kind of an interesting personality. Uh, I want things done, but I'm definitely a team player. If someone's
You're willing to bend.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. And I did that when we were songwriting in Virgin Steel. If Dave DeFay had some good ideas, they were incorporated. It wasn't, well, I didn't think of it, so it's not good. Uh, so getting back to, I needed a solid band. Uh,
So
by
did you
around,
perform live with Rhett?
unfortunately, what happened is that Rhett, after we went to Europe, he got offered solo deals, which were very tempting for him because Rhett was, I mean, Rhett really had no money. It was like the kind of rock and roll story that, you read about when people write their autobiographies, well, I was sleeping on my girlfriend's couch for 2 years. Pretty much. I mean, Rhett had no money. So I took him to France to do these shows. And then all of a sudden, the world opens up and people are like offering, you know, deals and what could I do? Because I didn't have the money back then to say no. You don't want to do that, man. Here, I'll take care of you. I'll give you 25 grand. That'll hold you over for a year.
Right.
Which back then 25 grand was like 100 grand today.
Right.
So, people always forget about that the money factor in rock and roll. You can't live on dreams. And I had two little kids, so that was important for me also, to have money coming in. And and if I hadn't had two little kids back then and I wasn't married at the time, that would have been a different story for me as well, because maybe I would have been more into like kind of like how Black Sabbath, everybody puts their name on the song, which is a great thing. Dio, I think they were doing that for a while also, where everybody in the band was getting the publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could have done that as well, and that would have been an incentive for everyone to stay in the band. You know, I mean, money
Well,
is
what did the gigging start producing money for you guys in that sense?
the gigging did. And also through the gigging is where I met my second manager, who I have nothing bad to say about because he was a great guy. He owned the biggest nightclub on Long Island, Sundance. Uh, they would have like, you know, you name it, Cinderella, you know, White Lion, Dokken, whoever was big, Motorhead, Manowar. Uh, and he actually put us on salary. So, which basically meant we were getting a salary even when we weren't playing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much better can you do than that for a band? You know, I mean, it didn't last forever, but for like a year or so, it was great. He even financed a project that I got going with the bass player of Foghat, uh, and he put us on salary too. That was a side project that I did. But so the thing is, money was really important. Plus, he had great musical ears. Frank Cariola, even though he was he was really old at the time, he was like, 48, and I was like 36, but I thought he was like really old. Now I would think, oh, he's only 48.
The
Oh,
baby.
he's a baby, you know. So the thing it's funny, but with Frank Cariola, he saw something in us, just like Zoran Busick had seen something in Virgin Steel, but he saw something in Burning Star. And so that kept us going in the 80s. That kept us going. And then we were Burning Star was making albums on German labels and things, and things were good because there was money coming in. But I needed a singer. Rhett was gone. Rhett was pursuing his own thing. I think he moved to California. And he was, getting, I think, into that Hollywood scene for a while. No, he was trying to, survive and do well out there. That never really happened for him. I think the best he did was first Riot and then secondly the Jack Starr album. Those were the two milestones. So what happened is Frank and I both felt I needed a great singer. I needed someone that had the range of Dave DeFay, and that had just like this incredible pillar crumbling scream. You know, you have to have that in metal. So who did we find? An 18-year-old kid playing in a Dio tribute band. A guy named Mike Tirelli.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about him. And I said, I got to go see this kid. And I called him a kid. I think he was 17 years old at the time. I remember pulling into the parking lot and I thought they were playing a Dio record,
Mm.
but it was him. It was Mike Tirelli with his cover band. I think they were called Last Licks. And just tremendous voice. I said, hey, I'm Jack Starr. I used to be in Virgin Steel. I don't know if you're not familiar with us because I have my new band. I did the solo album with Rhett Forrester. I'm interested in you singing for my band. And he just looked at me like, what? You think I can sing like as good as like Dave DeFay and Rhett Forrester and those guys? I go, yeah, maybe I'm crazy, but I just heard you. You sounded every bit as good to me as Ronnie Dio.
Mm.
but about 30 years younger. I said, where the hell did you get those pipes? How do you do it? I was blown away. So anyway, to make a long story short, we started working on an album, on the No Turning Back album, which did great, got incredible reviews. We
Well, hold on a second.
yeah,
I got to ask this. How do you get through Frey to produce the album?
that's a
So
great,
I guess the blood wasn't that bad in that sense.
you know what? That's a great question and no one's asked me that before because I guess people don't read the fine print on albums.
Mm.
But anyway, at that time, uh, I was doing really well. And actually, Dave wasn't doing really well. So that's something that has to be acknowledged into how and why I would have called him. It was like, Dave, let's forget all the bad stuff. I don't want to hear Zoran Buzik's name. I don't want to know anything about Saga. I don't care. I'm going to I'm doing an album. I found someone. I found a great singer, and I'd like you to be in on the production of it. And that was that. And I said, and while you're at it, you may as well give me a little keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Got him to play a little keyboard. And the weird thing was, which was kind of funny because I was so turned off to keyboards. I even wrote on the back of my Burning Star Rock the American Way album, I wrote absolutely no keyboards on this album. Then the very next album,
You got it.
I had keyboards on it. So anyway,
And you guys got along? Everything was cool, copacetic in that sense?
it was, and I think things started to get weird maybe 4 or 5 years later. Dave started doing better. In fact, I think the best Dave ever did was around I don't know, I'm not sure the exact time frame, probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, maybe late 80s. I'm sorry. I know he put out an album that sounded like Whitesnake of all things.
Mm.
Trying to do I think it was called Life in the Ruins. But anyway, yeah, so I'm the kind of person, by the way, I can't be mad at someone for more than 20 minutes. It's like, oh, you burned my house down. Oh, that's horrible. 20 minutes later, it's like, well, I don't know, maybe I had it coming. Let's go have a beer. I don't hold grudges.
Mm-hmm.
I really I'm not like that. It's kind of one of the things maybe I should hold grudges more. I need more of that Brooklyn in me,
Yeah.
you know.
But there's a lot of bodies in trunks, Jack.
I
That
think
we don't
so.
talk about. We don't talk
Yeah,
about.
I believe it. I definitely believe it. So, and speaking of which, my manager at the time, I always thought, oh, I really hope Frank is totally in the mafia with up to his eyeballs. I really hope he is. He's friends with these people and that people. He's friends with Frank Barcelona, the guy that manages, Peter Frampton, who was, I think, pretty much in the mob, in the entertainment wing of the mob. He is friends with the people at Breakout Management and blah blah blah. But come to find out later on that they all liked Frank Cariola. They all thought he was a great guy, but he never had any of those kind of business dealings. He was like the nice guy uh, that went to visit his mom in Brooklyn every Sunday. Uh, uh, he didn't have that tough side of him,
Mm.
which would have been great for me if he did. I mean, I could tell you stories that, you know, we'd open up for like one time we're opening up for Cinderella at his club that he owned. And they're kind of being like dicks with us, you know. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but you can't use these monitors. These side wedges are for the headlining band. You were not the headlining band. So I go, yeah, but we need to hear ourselves. We need those side wedges. Keep, you know. Then I went up to the second level of the club where Frank was, and I said, Frank, you manage our band. We're on salary. Uh, can you tell those jerk offs in Cinderella that they have to give us full sounds? Oh, Jack, you don't understand. I have to be nice to people. I can't show favoritism. And I'm going, Frank, you own the fucking club.
Right, and you're repping us.
Yeah.
You needed a Peter Grant
Yes, thank you. We needed a Peter
or a
Grant.
Rod Smallwood.
Yeah. Frank was too nice. He was too effing nice.
Mm.
And this repeated itself a couple of times until he finally started getting the message. Which I told Frank, it's in everybody's interest if we sound great. Look how great we sounded last night with Yngwie. We sounded, this was like, now we're up into like 1988, you know, and this was around the time of Odyssey, which a friend of mine produced, a guy named Steve Thompson, who was a local guy. I go, didn't we sound great last night? Frank, reason we sounded great is because we had the same sound that Yngwie had. Nothing was held back from us. In fact, the sound was so good that Yngwie backstage asked me if he could use some of the additional stuff that we brought in, which I said yes. He said I never had a band, you know, share a bill with that had this kind of amazing sound. And I said, well, you know, I don't know if you know this, but I said our manager, Frank Cariola, owns the place. Ah, okay, okay. It's like putting two and two together.
Mm.
And so to make a long story short, it a lot of this rock and roll metal stuff, it's a lot of it is who you know. A lot of it is the kind of management you have, and a lot of it is talent. But that said, if you have talent, and let's say you're good, you need the rest of the pieces,
Right.
you know? I mean, I can play, and I don't want to sound conceited, but I could definitely play. If you give me a great sound, I'm going to sound great. You give me a crappy sound, I'll sound like a great guitar player with a crappy sound, which will be instead of getting a 9.5, I'll get an 8.1 on the 1 to 10 scale. It's as simple as that. You have to have the stars have to align correctly. Now I've had, you know, shows where I've sounded great. There's a YouTube video that I just found and I put up. It's called Jack Starr's Burning Star at L'Amour's. And I co-wrote it as 15 minutes of metal goodness. That's how it's listed on YouTube. We had an amazing sound. You know, Mike Tirelli was singing his butt off. The guitar sounded amazing. The notes were like singing, you know. That doesn't happen all the time. It should happen all the time. But the good thing is that even for well-known bands, I'm talking like really well-known, not like like we are, like, semi, known cult metal band. I'm talking about bands like Slayer or Metallica. They have nights where they suck,
Yeah.
you know, and and uh and they should have everything locked up. Everything should be in their corner. But some idiot could hand one of them an out-of-tune guitar. How do you make up for that? Okay, well, you fire the guy the next day, but that's not going to help you when the first song, the one that you need to make the most impact with, is out of tune.
Well, here's a quick story. Rush is playing the Forum.
Yeah,
They go into 2112. Geddy's bass don't work, and I never seen Geddy Lee pissed before. And of course, there's 80 gazillion iPhones out there on
right,
every single angle, you know. And that they had to stop the song completely and start it all over again.
exactly. And you would
And
think
that's Rush,
that's
performing.
Rush. And they obviously have a great sound crew and obviously have the financial wherewithal to put on a great show. Putting on a great show costs money.
Mhm.
That's it. But you also still have to have the talent thing. So the talent thing comes first. You need a great drummer, like Burning Star 2026. We have a great drummer. A guy named Rhino. He played in Manowar.
Oh,
He can
Ryan's
play great.
great. Yeah.
But even Rhino has done shows with us. Or at the end of the show, he was like, "Man, I don't like the way I sounded." And I'm thinking, "Wow, I thought he sounded, really great." But he knew that that magical sound that he was looking for wasn't there. It's like, to me, Eric Carr had a killer sound. He knew what he wanted from the drum set. He wanted a larger than life sound, and he got that sound. So getting back to but the album that I did. Okay, let's jump into the future. But actually, you know what? You probably have some more questions, so let's go into that because I can
Go
get
ahead,
lost.
Tom. Well, go ahead, Tom. Well, yeah, because I want to talk
Yeah,
about
I wanted
Todd,
to
Michael
talk.
Hall, and stuff. But go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I wanted to talk, Jack, about it with my. Out of all your albums, my personal favorite is an album called "Under a Savage Sky," with the singer Shmuel, known by some as Sammy Abigail. Could you tell me how you got him into the band, and
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about this album, and we'll go over a couple of songs I have questions about.
Well, before Rhett Forster sang on my solo album, I was seriously entertaining the thought of trying to get Shmulik. Why? Who the hell knows? I was reading Kerrang magazine, like hundreds of thousands of people, and I was reading about this band called Picture. And they were basically saying, this guy Shmulik had a voice like Dio. And I said, wow, I have a big record deal. I should be able to get someone really good. Let me get a hold of Shmulik. And I did. I talked to him and he was on CBS in Holland. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that was no slouchy little unimportant label. So I had to go through people to even talk to Shmulik. It was like, oh, and who are you, Mr. Jack Starr? I go, well, I was in the band, Virgin Steel. Oh yes, Virgin Steel, yes, and I'm now on Passport, and the label that has some of the people that are also on CBS in Holland, like Wendy O. Williams, like Al Stewart, you're the cat or whatever, I wanted to let him know that I had some backing, so he would take me seriously. Robin Trower was on Passport,
Hmm.
and these
Yes.
guys are all older guys, so they're going to relate more to a Robin Trower than a Virgin Steel or a Striper or a King Diamond. That's something that they have to do because that's part of their job.
Right.
But Robin Trower is something that they'll do on a weekend,
Hmm.
you know. So anyway, he goes, yes, I suppose we can put you in touch with Smulik, because you sound like you have something maybe, interesting, and we don't know. We think that Smulik has left picture. Uh, I think you might have mentioned the other band, Horizon.
Horizon. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I called Smulik and I said, man, you have an amazing voice. I'm like one of these guys from like the movie Ted's Wonderful Adventure, whatever that is. I I go, dude. I found myself doing it talking to. I go, dude, man, you got a really great effing voice, you know. Because how's your English? Do you know what I'm saying? I go, oh yeah, and then he goes, yes, I could speak English, and he actually spoke pretty well.
They have a heavy Israeli accent. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a
Yeah.
heavy accent, and so I'm going, well, do you know who I am? No, oh yes, we get the metal imports and all that in Holland, and you're very well known here in Holland, and as a guitar player. It's like, oh, that's great, man. I said because I'm doing a solo album, and I'm thinking that you would be really great. I wanted you for my Out of the Darkness album. It was too difficult. Your label was not that helpful, to be honest. And so I figured Rhett was around, and Rhett is also a great singer. And he goes, "Oh yes, you are correct. Rhett Forrester, great singer." So I said, "But now," I said, "I have a label deal. It's with a European label from Greece, and they're very good. They're called CMC, Cult Metal Classics. And I want a great singer." So he goes to me, he goes, "I want a great guitar player." So, so I said, well, I said, that's part of it. It's important. But I said, you know what? Honestly, I think even more important than the fact that I can play, I have great songs. Let me send you the demo. Uh, I said, please overlook the singing on the demo. I actually had everything about the demo was great. We had the drummer, Joe Hasselwander,
From Raven.
Mm-hmm.
yes, and Pentagram too.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So and Joe is friends with my bass player, Ned Maloney. They've been friends forever, and they've had bands up in the that whole Beltway area of the East Coast, Maryland, Washington, D.C. There's a bunch of clubs up there. Like there's some really big clubs in that area. Anyway, so I said, well, let me send you the demo. I don't expect you to tell me yes. So, you know, send him the demo. And he first thing he goes, Jack, your singing sucks. And I go, thank you. I said, I'm not singing on the album. And then I just because I being funny. He goes, I am funny. No, I go, oh, okay, good. And he goes, but I was able to understand the melodies of where you're going with this stuff. And he basically said, I can kill on this album. Those were the words that I wanted to hear. Not, I think I could do it.
Let me look at it.
Yeah. He just basically came right out and said, I can kill on this album.
And he did.
And he did. So under a savage sky, I said, well, I heard you're moving to America and everything. So it turns out that he ended up moving upstate New York. I think that has something to do also with the Rods. He was in touch with them. But
He was
anyway,
he was in the band Hoppo for a while too. He did one album with them.
yeah, what were they called?
Hoppo, Harpo.
Harpo. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hoppo. Yeah, he did an album with them too.
Well, I have to check that out. Was it good? Good album?
Really good.
Wow. Okay. So anyway, so with so all that said, I said, well, I've moved to Florida. I don't live in New York anymore, I told him. He goes, oh. I said, yeah. I said, because he was thinking he would just be able to take his car and drive down from upstate to Long Island, like, I don't know, 4 hours, 5 hours. I said, yeah, I moved, I live in the same town as my bass player. We live in Central Florida. My bass player's father, by the way, was the guitar player in UFO, Paul Chapman.
Oh, Tonka.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah.
Oh,
So
we love Paul. We
you
love
did.
Paul.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Big
you know,
admirers.
yeah. Paul was a great player, and we his daughter organized a tribute concert, not a tribute, a benefit concert, uh, about 3 years ago, and Burning Star played there, which made sense considering that our bass player is also the son-in-law of
Mm.
Paul. So anyway, so I told Shmulik, I said, look, I'm down in Florida now. You're gonna have to come to Florida because I don't want to go to New York. It's snowing. It's horrible. Uh, I broke up with the girl that I was living with.
Trying to avoid.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, the girlfriend from hell. No, I'm just kidding in case she watches this. But it, I didn't want to have anything to do with New York really at that time. And also it was like everything else, it was a money thing. I couldn't afford to live in New York anymore. Got too expensive. You know, I'm looking at my bass player Ned, and he says, "Oh, I bought a house here for like 100,000." And I go, "For $100,000, you can really like buy a house?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, and with a swimming pool."
Mhm.
I go, "Wait a minute, you could buy a house with a swimming pool in Florida?" Oh yeah, and the taxes are really low too.
And no state tax either.
You're right. So it was like, oh my God. I'm coming to Florida. So why don't we record the album in Florida? I could get out of the horrible weather. We could hang out, and I could check out real estate while I'm down there. You could, show me some real estate. So to make a long story short, I convinced Shmulik to come to Florida. I said, come on down, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a month to do this album because we're not just doing like some kind of jamming album where the guitar player jams and, you know, this is all structured. Everybody has to learn parts. This is like metal Dream Theater, metal Rush. And the vocals have to be right on the money and he goes, he liked the challenge. He said, I know, I like your attitude. This is good. This is how I want to work. I go, okay, but don't worry, we've got a place for you to stay. We got a big house in Florida. You want to go swimming, you go swimming, whatever you want to do. So now I have the whole team assembled in one spot, and they're all stellar, you know. And then, we got Joe Hasselwander, got Shmulik, we got Ned, his father-in-law is Paul Chapman. And then I had the brainstorm. I go, I know this is crazy, Ned, but would it be possible to get your father-in-law on a song, you know? So he goes, I don't know, let me ask him, you know. We ended up getting Tonka on one song, and also we ended up getting Mark Gallagher from Raven on one song.
Oh,
So so I needed to like really make a splash with the album. You know, I needed it to be more memorable than your typical metal release. I needed some names. It's like if I were going to direct my first movie, I needed to get at least one or two people in that movie that the average theater goer has heard of. And that's what they do. People that, when they direct like a horror movie, well, let's see if we can get, you know, Jennifer Aniston to do a cameo.
Oh yeah.
And they do it. And then now you've got a bunch of people that would have never seen Leprechaun 1 that are going to go see the movie because Jennifer Aniston is in the movie for like a minute and a half,
mm-hmm.
you know? So anyway, that was my concept, you know, okay, I want to get good people. I believed in myself. I believed that I could play. I actually play better now than I did before, which is kind of crazy to say that at my age. I mean, I'm in my 70s, and I actually believe that I play better guitar now than I did before. And I said, well, I believe in myself. I believe in these guys. I believe that Shmulik is a world-class singer. I believe Joe Hasselfounder is a world-class metal drummer. Or else, why would he get the gig in Raven? Why would he get the gig in Pentagram? Why does he make solo albums that are brilliant? They're brilliant. Where he plays everything. He plays the guitar, he plays the bass, he sings, you know. And Ned, the bass player that is now in in Burning Starr. He's been my bass player in Burning Starr for a long time. Why would he be good enough to turn down offers from major bands?
Mm.
He played with the singer of Rainbow,
Joe and Turner.
Joe and Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would he turn down Anvil? Anvil wanted him. I mean, I know that maybe it's not the biggest gig in the world, but you know what?
They got recognition.
Yeah, they were hot. They had that movie out. What was that movie?
Story of Anvil.
What was it?
The Story of Anvil.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a great movie. It made you like the band. And you know what? Being sympathetic, creating goodwill is so important in this business. And that's one thing, I mean, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I've created a lot of goodwill. I'll give you a quick story. We signed with Manowar. We signed with their label. It was called Magic Circle. So I told Joey, who was the president of the label, I said, Joey, I don't know about calling it Burning Starr, you know. Maybe we should go for something different. And he goes, no. He goes, no, Jack. You've created goodwill with Burning Starr. You've put out albums, they've been released all over the place. That's the hardest thing to create in this metal business. You haven't ruffled people's feathers. You haven't been a dick. You don't badmouth people.
Mm.
And you put out quality albums because that's the main thing. There are a lot of people that take shortcuts. You know, they put out albums just to fulfill a contract, or you know, well, we got one more album to do, so just put out anything, you know, because you put out really, really great albums. This is coming from Joey DeMaio, who is he's a great guy, but let's face it, he definitely has pretty huge ego, and
And
maybe
good
he
business
should.
sense too.
Well,
Good business sense.
yeah, and maybe he should have a really good ego because I mean, look what he's accomplished. He's created his own Ozfest.
Right, they're creating festivals. They don't have to tour year round. They can
Yeah,
do like a week. Now he's doing like they're doing anniversary albums now. It's amazing, and people have to come to them. When they
yeah.
played Brooklyn, Jack,
Oh,
the cheapest ticket was $100. They
oh
played
yeah,
the
I believe.
they played the King's Theater in Brooklyn, and that was the first time they've been in the U.S. in a gazillion years. You
Right.
know, and so, sold out, of course, automatically. And yeah, they get the demand.
Absolutely. Same thing when when they play like Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. It'll be totally mob. And so the thing is, he created all this goodwill. People know what to expect from a Manowar album, from Joey DeMaio. You know what you're gonna get.
Hmm.
Uh, I've created that goodwill from a Burning Star album, whether it's Out of the Darkness, Part One, or 100 years later, Part Two, with Giles Lavery on vocals. They know they don't have to hear a track before buying it. Just buy the fucking album.
Right.
And they do, because uh that cult exists. And it's the same thing with what Joey was trying to tell me, and I didn't understand it. I don't know, maybe it was false modesty on my part, or maybe it was really modesty. Maybe I really didn't get it, but Joey laid it out for me. He said, "You created goodwill with these albums. These are all great albums, the ones you did in the 80s, the No Turning Back, the Blaze of Glory, Rock the American Way, all these albums. Uh, so you have to hang on to that. If you want to do solo albums, that's fine. Do solo albums. If you want to start Virgin Steel up and do Jack Starr's Virgin Steel, do that. But have your name as part of it.
Hmm. You created the brand.
Created the brand, yeah. And I never thanked him, but if he sees this, thank you, Joey, because that was important.
With the album that you did with Shmuley, how far did it get? Just recording wise, did you guys ever play live?
Yeah, yeah, we did. And the thing is, I mean, Shmulik's voice was unbelievable live. I don't think, and this is sad to say because he's no longer with us, but I don't really think anybody's totally captured what he was capable of doing. I think
I
I
don't think most people in the music fans even know who he is to this day. I've
They don't.
mentioned him to so many people, and they don't even know.
No.
Don't even
They'll
know him.
no, they'll know Rhett Forrester,
Oh yeah, of
but
course.
they won't know
Right,
Shmulik, you
right.
know. Yeah, you're right about that. He so getting back to Shmulik, there was a couple of disagreements during the sorry about it. Hold on. Let me spam. No, Mr. Spam, I'm not talking to you.
Hmm.
So there was a couple of disagreements. Not with me and Shmulik. We got along great. With Shmulik and Joe Hasselwander. There was a couple of times where it really almost came to blows. And let me tell you, Shmulik is a little guy, but man, he would have held his own against anybody. He was tough. My
He
God.
was a sergeant in the Israeli army.
Yeah. You don't mess with guys like that.
And okay, then that
Yeah.
explains it. He was a very tough guy, and he stood his ground. It's like you were not going to say something disrespectful to him because he would not let it go by.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, the
whereas
Rods had problems with him too.
who did?
The Rods had
Oh,
problems with
okay,
him
I
too.
believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you, I mean, you could insult me. Okay, great, thank you. I'm not going to get worked up. It's one thing to actually, if you're going to throw something at me, then that's a different story. I'll grab it and throw it back at you.
Right.
But if someone's saying, you're a dick, or you think you're a great guitar player, you suck. Well, okay, I suck. What, what am I going to say, So the thing with Shmulik is, I don't think that you could have told him, Shmulik, you suck, man. You have no clue, you did a horrible job on this song. Uh-oh.
He
You
was
know,
sensitive and stuff like that.
yeah, you were
Mm.
out of tune here. I never, ever critiqued his vocals. Never. Because
You don't
I
want to
just
get your
felt,
ass kicked.
yeah, I did, yeah.
He
I
don't
just,
he don't want he don't want to use your guitar as a weapon on you.
exactly. And I just got the feeling it would be better to not, I think I would have gotten more out of him too, and I did get more out of him by acknowledging the fact that he's great. And even if he had a whole different way of looking at the song, I needed to not be dismissive, to say, yeah, I really want to hear where you're going with this melody. It's not what I wrote, but maybe it's better. Let me hear it. Whereas there are other people that might say, I wrote the song, write your own stupid song. No, you know, so you always have that.
Yeah,
Why do you think he never like he always bounced from bands that were like under the radar? What do you think like he never attracted the attention of like a more major act with the voice that he had? Was it his attitude or his look or
It's funny that you say that, but it could have been a combination of things.
yeah?
I don't know, man. Maybe
Well, what was the end for you guys with him?
the what?
What was the end with you guys with him?
Well, the end with us was really that the album sales wise didn't do as well as we hoped it would do. And I really didn't want to sign again with this label.
The
Uh,
distribution on it was terrible. Like I found out about
that's
this album, it had already been out like a couple of years,
right.
and I didn't even know about it. Somebody knew that what a big fan of his I was and mentioned it to me, and I didn't even know this album existed. I went out and bought it, but it was already out a couple of years.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head, right? The label wasn't strong enough to make more things happen, which would have then filtered down to our level. And I could have offered more to Shmulik as the band leader. I could have said, okay, well, listen, stick around. We're going to do an album number two, and we'll get you a sign-on bonus. I mean, it wouldn't have been like Metallica giving $1 million to the bass player as a sign-on bonus, but it would have been maybe like 20 grand or something. But back then, that's a lot of money back
Yes.
then. There could have been a sign-on bonus, which we wouldn't have been able to get because we weren't getting enough ourselves from the Greek label, from CMC. So I mean, and I hate to say that because it doesn't sound like what we want to hear from our rock stars talking about money, but unfortunately, money sometimes plays a big part,
I'm sure.
So
Hmm.
when you ask a question like, well, why didn't it continue going on? It's like I don't want to say the obvious.
Musical differences.
Yeah, we want to say, well, creative differences, exactly. But unfortunately, money you gotta make money if you're doing this as your life, which I
Right.
have and I am. I
Mm.
mean, how many people my age, can say, they've done music their whole life and gotten deals and publishing and all this other stuff and uh, endorsement deals. And usually, that might happen for a year or two and then you're gone. You know,
Yeah.
I only had, maybe one time in my life that I stopped doing music, and that was in the 90s. I just got fed up with the whole grunge thing, and I don't know, I just felt it was kind of hopeless, you know. I would just see, people all around me wearing flannel, and I think it was the flannel that got me. No,
It's
I'm
funny.
kidding.
Any Trunk just did a whole episode yesterday called "The Wall of Nirvana."
Yeah,
Because between them and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, all the '80s bands, or they were called hair metal at the time.
yeah,
Everybody
we were
that
all
were
screwed.
huge 5 months earlier playing arenas now couldn't have anybody look at them.
Right. And for us, 5 months earlier, we were playing like mega clubs and having
Packed out,
uh,
packed it
all
in.
that stuff. And then that dried up. So everybody, it dried up, but everybody on a different level. On our level, it dried up. And probably on people below us, it dried up too. Even even the hair metal band that was playing down the street in a little bar, it's like, why aren't you guys wearing flannel? What's going on here? So it was
The gangster rap had a lot to do with it too. It wasn't just grunge.
Yes, actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the gangster rap was very, very big, and then you had some guys that were very smart, like Anthrax, were able to kind of get,
They towed the line in between,
yeah,
their old sound and changing.
exactly. It's like Kiss doing disco when they did
Right.
"I Was
Right.
Made for Love," and you know. So the thing is, and I don't reproach anybody for doing that because it's all music and it's all good. You either Music is either good or bad.
Mm.
That's the bottom line.
I agree.
Uh, it, I don't know if it was either Beethoven or Duke Ellington that said that, but they asked him how he categorized music, for good or bad. So, but I know Beethoven did say one thing that I totally agree with. There are no wrong notes. The notes that you play, if you meant them and you wrote them, they're not wrong. You know, there are no wrong notes, especially the notes that come before and after the supposed wrong note. They make that note that was played either right or wrong, the way it was bent and everything else. But anyway, so getting back to that whole thing, yeah, Anthrax were smart, Kiss were smart, the whole gangster rap thing. But the weird thing is, I look back on it now, okay, 40 years later. The funny thing is, I actually like a lot of it. And I didn't like it at the time. I thought I Was Made for Loving You sucked. I thought, oh man, those guys are so stupid.
No, I actually like that album a lot.
I love that album.
Yeah, it's got some great songs on it.
We're talking about the one that had
Dynasty.
Bruce Kulick on it, or no,
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 that was
before.
the last original four, but Pete didn't play drums on it.
Okay, that
And
was a
Anton
great
Flip
album,
played. Yeah.
The Dynasty. I also like the album afterwards with Bruce Kulick.
No, then after that was Unmasked. That's
Okay,
when Eric Carr came. Well, Anton played on that, but Eric Carr played the tour. And then after that was Creatures, and that's when Vinnie Vincent came in. Bruce didn't come in until after Lick It Up.
what was that album called?
Was it Asylum? I think Asylum was the first.
Silent, yeah.
Asylum was the first Bruce Kulick album.
Right. Okay.
Dynasty had Magic Touch
Oh,
on
I'm
it.
sorry. Then there was Mark St. John.
Mark St. John. Yeah.
It was in between that too. Yeah,
All right, your Kiss. You should.
Dynasty had Magic Touch on it, which I always thought was one of their best songs.
Hard
I actually
times.
auditioned for Kiss, but that's on a
Please tell that story right now.
there's a whole hour long
Well,
YouTube.
then we got to do a part two with you then about that.
Uh, yeah, we'll do that. But I mean, yeah, we'll do that.
Well, okay. So, Tom, do you have anything else? Because I want
I'm
to.
good. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want. Well, I want to wrap it up with
Yeah,
this. It seems like Mark Rial from Riot was listening to what you were doing and was poaching your singers because Mike Tirelli goes over to Riot to there's a replacement thing, but never records with them, but does a mini type of tour. And then please talk about Todd Michael Hall because now Todd Michael Hall comes in to the Mark's passed away, but they do Riot 5.
right.
And Todd is, oh my God, and Todd's no longer in the band either. Todd just left Riot, you know.
Yes.
Please talk about finding Todd.
Well, finding Todd was really amazing. Okay, we had signed with Joey DeMaio from Manowar. Uh, Joey did not really like some of the singers that we were considering. Not we hadn't uh, finalized anything, but anyway, Joey and I really agreed that we need a really great singer. So Joey said, "Look, I know a lot of people in the industry," which obviously he did. He goes, "Why don't we advertise in different metal media? Let's find let's find you a singer." So I go, "Okay." And because we're gonna have auditions in Auburn, New York, at his complex. There's a huge Manowar studio complex. I mean, you wouldn't believe the size of this thing. It used to be a watch factory from like the turn of the century.
And that's huge if that's a watch factory.
I think that's what it was, a watch
Wow.
factory. Yeah. So anyway, we're up there and they had totally redone the whole interior and they had a studio in there and everything else. And he goes, Jack, come up to Auburn, New York. Come up here for a week or two. Let's have singers come here and let's audition singers. And I said, yeah, let's definitely do that. I'm up for that. I recommended a couple of people that I thought were good. Um, for whatever reason, he didn't think they were that good. I wasn't sold on them either, but I just said, hey, let's check out. Then we were listening to cassettes one day. I think he literally got like 25 or 30 cassettes, which is tremendous back then. And then he goes to me, what do you think of this guy? And I thought he was really good. I said, this guy has a God-given voice. I said, there's people that will themselves to be singer. They will themselves. They learn phrasing. They learn how to sound cool. Like Mick Jagger. He has no voice, but he has willed himself. So, so if he's singing, I saw her today at the reception, he's got that throaty, or Lou Reed, he can't sing at all, but he was like, I said, hey, babe,
It's
take a
the
walk
attitude.
on the wild side, you know. And then there are people like this guy on the cassette, who just had this clear, magnificent voice, like like a clear waterfall, like a fountain, like it was coming out of him. And I said, I told I told Joey, I think we should listen to this guy in person. And Joey said, I'm ahead of you. I've already called him. He's coming next Thursday. So I go, okay. So he came down and he he said, by the way, your album that you did with Rhett Forrester is one of my favorite albums. Oh, well, thank you very much. He goes, and I'm a huge Man of War fan. So he said, thank you very much. And we heard him sing, and that was it. It was over.
Mm.
Auditions were over. We just said, here's a song. Uh, and he just nailed it. And then, I don't know if it was Joey or me or one of us said something about if we wanted you to up it, the intensity, like to really scream during this part, to really crescendo over here, could you do that as well? So he goes, yeah, all right, look, at the end of this phrase, give us a really great crescendo, like really like build it to a climax. And he did it. And it was just like, wow. So what I got out of that was Todd is a smart enough singer where he doesn't kill you constantly. He's not, he knows how to bring it on at the right time. Just like, by the way, just like Giles. Giles did a super job on the Out of the Darkness Part 2 album. And Giles also understands that concept. And some of the metal singers do not get that. The best way I could explain it is this analogy. You're a guitar player that can shred. You can do the Yngwie thing in your sleep, and you can do the Eddie Van Halen, but you do that all the time. It loses its effectiveness. So the thing is, to do that at the right time, Todd Michael Hall does that at the right time. Giles does that at the right time. And without sounding too full of myself, that's what I do on the guitar. I don't lay it on all the time.
Now, with the new album itself, all the tracks are done?
The tracks are getting done. We have a working title for the Burning Starr album. And also, there's also going to be a not a Jack Starr Out of the Darkness Part 3.
Oh.
Because I like Part 2 so much. But I'm thinking, there should be a Part 3 as well. So I love recording and I love playing. And I can also tell you without giving any hints whatsoever that I will definitely be in Europe this year. And that's all I can say.
And what about us in the States? We'll ever get to see Jack Starr play in the States?
You know, I don't know. I would love that. And it seems to be the beginning of a metal scene here in America. I would really love. I think the only way, honestly, that's going to happen is Jack Starr or Burning Starr. We're going to have to be on a tour with someone that can draw.
You got to do a package.
We have to do a package.
Yeah.
Someone that can draw. I mean, I would do a thing with Striper where we'd be their opening act.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good cult following, and lyrically, I'm on board with. I don't want to have anything, messed up or degenerate or I don't want anything evil. It's not what I'm about. It's not what any of my music has ever been about. So somebody like Striper,
So you wouldn't open up for Venom?
Venom. But don't get me started. Don't get me started on Venom because when I was doing a festival in Europe with Venom, I don't know, they got locked out of their room and they had nowhere to bring in all their stuff. So hey, you can put all your stuff in my room. And then the next day I see them at the cafe. This was in France. And I go, hey, what's up, guys? All your stuff is safe and sound. I left the key with the guy at the front desk. And they have all these like hot groupies. Who would think Venom has like all these beautiful groupies? But anyway, they did. And he's making fun of his image. He goes, Jack, man, because I thought you were going to be like one of these jerks that really believes in our whole evil satanic thing is like 100% true. And I go, no, because you've got a great act. Venom is a great act. Striper is a great act, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And and then there's we're in France, so then there's like a little dog that wanders into the cafe, and I think Kronos was going, "Oh, that's a satanic dog." He's just like laughing at himself, and I thought that that was wonderful.
Right. They didn't take themselves too seriously about it.
No, they really don't. And you know what? And Ozzy, when he was getting accused of being satanic, what's with the upside down crosses and all this? Now, I don't think they even had upside down crosses. No, no, Ozzy just
There's
had
the
regular.
pentagram. They had the
Yeah,
pentagram going on.
and he always said it's part of the act.
Hmm.
We're not
It's the
satanic,
uniform. It's the uniform.
and that's why people loved him. Even people that were like born again loved Ozzy.
Jack, can we promote any websites or anything for you, please?
Yes, let's do a little promoting. Uh, well, the main one that I want to promote right now is bravewords.com, bravewordsrecords.com. You're going to see a lot of the albums that I've done, bravewordsrecords.com. Also, Spotify and so on and so forth. The albums are on there on Spotify, and the albums basically they're everywhere. Go, I would say in YouTube.
Well, I mean, your discography is amazing. You have a blues album. You had a lot, some career, Jack. A lot of things going on in there.
I've been a busy boy. That's
Very
true.
busy boy.
Um,
Do you
I
have your
would
own web? Do you have a Jack Starr website?
No, I actually did for a while, and I'm probably going to have it again. And when I had it, it was doing really good, and there was a whole merchandise thing that was going on, and that was a really great source of income. For whatever reason, I stopped doing it. I will do it again. But the thing to remember too is if you go to YouTube, my website on YouTube is called Strat Lover. So
Okay,
that's
that's your channel.
STRATLUVR, Strat Lover. And that has a tremendous amount of content, from the blues stuff to the metal. There's even, I even did a Latin album, which was kind of crazy. But I had a lot of friends that were Puerto Rican, on Long Island. And it was time when Santana was like really big.
Mm.
And I just did a Latin album, and we even did some gigs with it locally. So there's that kind of music. There's my blues stuff. Mainly it's metal though, because that's really what I've become really most identified with.
And one last thing, do you still own? Because you're wearing a Virgin Steel T-shirt, do you still own ownership to the name?
I'm not, honestly, I'm not sure because what happened is there was a legal fight, legal battle, legal lawsuit, whatever. And the name, there was an arrangement worked out with Zoran Busick, the guy that managed Saga that
It belongs in a
he,
trunk of a car.
yeah, but he passed away. So what if he even ever did have uh you know
Rights to it.
any rights to it or
Yeah.
whatever, he wouldn't at this point, and he doesn't have an estate that's interested or protecting it or whatever. So I think if anybody has a right to the name, it's probably me. Uh, I came up with the name and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But right now, I'm not interested really in. I mean, the glory years of Virgin Steel is this album right here. I don't know if I can get it in the. Let me see.
Do you have it, Tommy? Do you have
Which
any
one?
Virgin Steel?
This is
Yeah.
called the
Oh,
Virgin
No, I
Steel
don't have. I
one.
don't have any of them here now. Just Burning Star stuff.
okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
those are the glory years
Yeah, that's
of
a great cover too.
yeah. And I just really think that I'm not a happy camper in terms of the label that Dave signed up with. I mean, he uses the name Virgin Steel, but I've never seen a penny. The last money I got was actually from Iron Maiden's record label that they started. I think it was who's the man? Smallwood.
Rod Smallwood, yeah.
Okay, Ron Smallwood started a label back then.
Sanctuary.
You're good. You Sanctuary. So they put out this one version Steel album, and to this date, the only money really that I've seen from Virgin Steel has been from Iron Maiden.
Hmm. Yeah, because they remastered and added bonus tracks to when
Yeah,
they did it. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
another thing that Dave does that I'm not crazy about is, he understands the music business now. He's no debutante. He knows that mechanical royalties are different than publishing royalties. Mechanical royalties just simply mean whoever the person that played on the album, he gets something for having played on it.
Hmm.
Okay. So Dave, and I have to say, I believe it's Dave. I can't say 100% sure, but when he redoes a Virgin Steel album and gets his guitar player, who at the time was Eddie Persino, then he doesn't have to pay Jack Starr because now Jack Starr is not on the album. When he changes the artwork, he doesn't have to pay whoever did the original artwork.
Mm.
When he changes all of that stuff, gets a different drummer and so on. So it's a way of making money from the name by redoing everything.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it. And I heard from one of his fans that who's a very nice person, that he's planning on redoing some more albums. So I don't doubt that when he redoes the albums for the third reissue or whatever, he won't use my tracks, so he doesn't have to pay me, and he won't use Eddie Persino's tracks or Joey Evasian's or Joe O'Reilly, the bass player. And I'm friends with all these guys. I'm still friends with all these guys. And so, I just wish that Dave would understand that and say that, the fans, he's carved out a niche, they want to hear, but the fans also want to hear the original,
Of course.
you know.
Where it
They
all started.
just like with Manowar, they reissued some Manowar albums without Ross the Boss. Now,
Terrible.
yeah, I never even heard the albums, but they weren't good, right? Yeah. The thing is, I mean, I'm a big Ross the Boss fan. I also like Joey, and I think there's room on Earth for Joey DeMaio, for Ross the Boss, for Jack Starr, for Dave DeFay. I think we can all get along,
Hmm.
you know, and
Absolutely.
and without sounding like a cliche, when they had the LA riots, why can't we all just get along?
You're
No
Rodney
true,
King the end. There you go.
yeah, no truer words were ever said.
So Jack, listen, we definitely have to have a part two because we want the Kiss story, and then when
All
the
right,
next album comes out, we
you
want
got it.
to we want to promote that. So don't go. Want to say proper goodbye to you. So I want to thank everybody for being here with us today. I am your host, Paulie Christine. That is Tom Coyne, and that is guitar virtuoso Jack Starr. And please look out again. The new single is called "Rise Up," and all you get Jack's all his stuff is streaming on iTunes and Spotify, and amongst other places, like you said. And then I will be tagging uh, your stuff on my Facebook page, Jack. Okay, so we have all that going on too. So I want to thank you again. So this has been Hard Rock History Show. Please follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And we want to thank you again for being with us. And as we always say, keep metal alive and keep rocking. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Take care.